people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. A second look at what is to be the Thorslund versus Cetin bantamweight title fight set to go down later on this month on the 24th. The fight is right around the corner as Dina will be defending both her WBC and WBO titles. Dina Thorslund, one of 3 champions at bantamweight. Dina's got the WBC and WBO titles. The United Kingdom's own Nina Hughes, she has the WBA, and Japan's own Miyo Yoshida, she's got the IBF. If Dina takes care of business with Cetin, perhaps she can see about unifying the rest of those titles, the rest of these belts. Gotta take care of Cetin first. Cetin, unbeaten up-and-comer pressure fighter that fights out of Turkey. And as I've stated in previous videos, I like Dina Thorslund to win. I like Dina Thorslund to stay this division's unified champion, and here's why.
Why?
As stated, Cetin is a pressure fighter, whereas Dina Thorslund, she's a boxer-puncher. She can toggle between being a boxer-puncher and a pressure fighter, though most of the time, she's a boxer-puncher. And boxer-punchers have a tactical advantage over pressure fighters because they use their forward momentum against them.
They can.
In tandem with the intangibles, that Dina Thorslund is already by and large a much more experienced fighter than Cetin.
More malleable.
Adjustable. She can adapt to the opponent, and that is proven over time. Cetin is a lot more straightforward.
Simple.
That doesn't mean she's not a good fighter, that she doesn't have the makings of what could one day be a good fighter, but for Dina Thorslund, this is going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. You will notice that Cetin is long and limber for the weight. She's got good height, good length for a bantamweight, whereas Dina Thorslund is a lot more compact, shorter, stumpier, sturdier, with a lower center of gravity, lighter on her feet, staying on her toes, bouncing in and out of range, using the ring.
You notice something about Dina's punches as opposed to Cetin's punches?
Cetin's got long arms. She throws wide sweeping hooks, mid-range to inside, wide shots as she closes the distance.
Is she strong?
She's strong. She's plenty strong, but because her arms are somewhat longer than Dina Thorslund, her punches are wider. That makes her more susceptible to being caught in between the punches.
You notice that Dina's punches are a lot shorter, a lot tighter, a lot more compact.
That lends itself to dominating the action mid-range to inside. That lends itself to dominating the pocket because Dina's punches don't have to travel as far. They'll find the target sooner than Cetin's punches would.
She'll beat her to the punch.
The way it looks, I want to say that Dina Thorslund seems to have both more hand speed and more foot speed than Cetin. That she's quicker to the draw and faster on her feet, more athletic, whereas Cetin,
she's flat-footed.
That has its pros and it has its cons. When you're standing on your whole foot, sitting on your punches, you draw power from the ground up.
So there's power on the shots.
That power comes at the sacrifice of mobility, agility, which Dina Thorslund has buckets of.
So because Dina fights on her toes, does that mean Cetin is a stronger puncher?
Not necessarily. Dina Thorslund is more capable of hitting the opponent with shots they don't see, and it's the punches you don't see that do the most damage. She's better at playing at the angles.
I don't think Cetin is stronger than Dina Thorslund.
Just because she's an artillery fighter, just because she plants her feet and barrels forward throwing punches in bunches, I don't think she has as much single punching power as Dina Thorslund. I don't think she's as accurate. I don't think she's as sharp a puncher.
Power, speed, agility, mobility. All these advantages go to Dina Thorslund, as well as experience, because she's the more experienced fighter of the two, having been a champion at both 122 and 118.
So in a word, even though Cetin is strong,
I think Dina's stronger. And even though Serena Cetin has good inside game, Dina's inside game is better. And even though Serena Cetin is a bit younger, she's also less experienced.
I like Dina to win.
Dina's got in and out game, something that Serena Cetin doesn't have. She can fight coming forwards or moving backwards or moving lateral. She's a sharpshooter. She can walk you into punches.
That leaping left hook, I've seen her drop quite a few girls with that leaping left hook to the body.
Yeah.
Nobody likes it to the body.
Dina Thorslund is not a fighter you want to just stand in front of throwing punches and bunches, because she'll punch in between. She'll catch you in between the shots. And because she's mobile, she can create space when she needs to, fight you off when she needs to. That's the advantage the boxer puncher has over the pressure fighter, where the pressure fighter is all about pressure.
The boxer puncher can box and punch. It's all in the name. Boxer puncher.
Should be another day at the office for Dina Thorslund. It's imperative, it's important that she stay unified champion so that she can then move on and unify titles with the other two champions at this weight. She's only 2 belts away from becoming this division's undisputed champion, and I think she should be able to handle Serena Cetin. Look for this fight later on this month, on the 24th. Men's junior middle and middleweight news. Unbeaten up-and-comer Austin Ammo Williams says, I want to fight Erickson Lubin. I'll knock him the fuck out.
Beating his cornflakes.
Must have been Lubin. If Ammo continues to beat up the competition, he'll get exactly what he's looking for. But for some reason, Williams isn't interested in making the leap just yet. Yanibek Alimkhanalai and Arislandi Lara, the division's WBO and WBA champions, will have to take a back seat for the time being, as Williams' preferred choice is actually someone who doesn't even compete in this division. I want to fight Erickson Lubin. Williams told IFL TV, I'ma knock him out. Williams has never been the bombastic type, but Lubin, at least privately,
He's pushed his buttons. Although he didn't reveal his reasons, Williams appears willing to put his championship aspirations to the side, something Lubin, ostensibly, isn't interested in doing.
Well, what is he doing? He was supposed to be in talks to fight Tim Tszyu down there at 154. All of that fell apart. Now Tim Tszyu is fighting Keith Thurman. But what is Erickson Lubin doing? Who is he fighting?
We're well into February now, and the PBC has yet to announce a second show that would follow the upcoming Tszyu versus Thurman fight. We don't know what, if anything, they have planned for April.
So does Erickson Lubin know when he's going to be fighting next?
Who he's going to be fighting next? Does he actually know when he will see action again? Does he want to sit around and wait? Just the other day, I saw his trainer, Kevin Cunningham, take to his social media account saying that he's never seen so many young, top-level boxers this frustrated. And you wonder, when he said that, was he talking about his own fighter? Was he talking about Erickson Lubricant?
Lubin.
Just the other day here on the channel, I talked about the potentiality of Conor Ben versus Danny Garcia fight. Danny Garcia, who fights on the same side of the street as Erickson Lubricant, and how Danny, much like Erickson, he was supposed to have a fight lined up. He was supposed to be fighting Lara at a catchweight. All of that fell apart. Now Lara's fighting Michael Zarafa. But where does that leave Danny?
Nowhere.
So that means Danny Garcia, much like Erickson Lubin, is left without a dance partner, at least for the time being, and at least 3 months into this year. Now, what they could do is see about fighting each other on their own side of things, but who's really interested to see Danny fight Erickson? It would actually be more interesting to see Danny fight Conor and to see Erickson fight Ammo.
Ammo Williams wants to fuck him up.
If Erickson wants to wait for Al Heyman to sort him out, and Danny Garcia wants to wait, he wants to keep waiting for Al Heyman to sort him out, to get him a slot on their next show, whenever that is, or maybe the show after that. I don't know. If they want to wait and keep waiting, if they want to sit on their hands, they can do that. They have that option.
But what they don't have is the luxury of time. I mean, Danny Garcia's in his mid-30s.
And how long? For how much longer is Erickson Lubin going to keep competing as a junior middleweight? You already got knocked out by Charlo. You got fucked up by Fundora. How long are you going to stay down there? Why don't you just change your decorum, shake things up a bit,
Create some excitement. I don't give a fuck, and I can't find a fuck to give about Erickson Lubin or Danny Garcia while they're on the PBC side of things. But if they change their decorum, I could actually go for Conor Benn versus Danny Garcia, and I could actually go for Erickson Lubin versus Ammo Williams. Things get a lot more interesting if they change their decorum. Doom and gloom aside.
You know, the whole thing about the PBC and Amazon deal, how they don't seem to have that many fight dates, they don't have much going on.
This would remedy that problem for the fighters, that if the PBC don't have that much planned for you, they don't got that many resources or that much money or that much whatever, just go somewhere else.
Problem solved.
Upstairs at super middleweight, ahead of his upcoming fight with Padraig McCrory, Edgar Berlanga promises to knock out Munguia in what would be a fight of the year. I really want that fight. Munguia is a big fight for me on the horizon, Berlanga told BoxingScene.com in an interview. We were trying to make that fight happen, but the numbers just weren't right, i.e., you likely wanted too much money. We figured we will meet in the future. Everything has to make sense. I've never ducked anyone in my life, ever. It just has to be fair. I feel like that fight is one of the biggest fights in boxing. I feel that we should have fair play with the money. We should both be able to eat at the same time. It's just patience. Hopefully that's a fight we can make this year for the fans. It would be something crazy for the sport of boxing.
Edgar Berlanga managed to extend his shelf life by leaving Top Rank and going over to Matchroom. I think the people at Top Rank were running out of patience with him.
I think that had he stayed there, he would have been beaten by now. I think he's been with Matchroom for something like 2 fights. 2 fights so far. 2 fights by now. But these have been forgettable performances.
I don't say these things to be harsh. I'm just being honest.
The matchmaking hasn't been particularly ambitious, and neither have the performances. But now what he's saying is that he wants to fight Jaime Munguia, and he wants to fight him this year, saying, oh yeah, for sure. It would be a fight of the year type fight. I don't see that fight going the distance. I know I would have to bite down on my mouthpiece, stand there and just do my thing. Ain't no going back, ain't no running, ain't no trying to box, because I know he's coming to fight. And I'm coming to fight too. I know I really have bricks in my hands, so I'm not worried. It sounds exciting. I'm excited. I really want to make this fight happen, but can it?
Well, just a few days ago it was thought that Canelo Alvarez would be fighting Jaime in his next fight in May, but then Canelo Alvarez himself said he's not going to be fighting a Mexican fighter in his very next fight. He's going to be fighting an American.
So, if Jaime is not fighting Canelo Alvarez as previously thought, that does leave him free, leave him open to fight Edgar Berlanga in what could be the late summer months. That's provided that Edgar wins his next fight with Padraig McCrory.
If he does, we get another chapter in that good old Puerto Rico versus Mexico rivalry. Berlanga's promoter, Eddie Hearn, is also keen on making the fight.
Last year, Eddie Hearn said, if we can't make Berlanga against Munguia and we can't get those fighters in the fight, then what are we in the sport for? Edgar Berlanga will return to the ring later on this month on the 24th to take on Padraig McCrory, unbeaten Padraig McCrory, at the Caribe Royale in Orlando. The fight will headline a Matchroom boxing show on DAZN. Both Jaime and Edgar, they both box on DAZN.
If Edgar takes care of business later on this month, you could do the fight between him and Jaime in the summer months, say in June or July.
He's always talking about the numbers and trying to make the numbers work. What exactly? What number is he looking for? What does he think his marquee value is? Being honest with you, I've seen more improvement from Jaime Munguia now that he's enlisted the aid of Freddie Roach. I've seen more improvement from Jaime than what I've been seeing from Edgar. This is still a fight that I favor Jaime Munguia to win.
He's been a world champion before. He's more experienced, not saying that Jaime's quality of competition is great, but it's certainly better than Edgar's quality of competition.
I think the only reason Edgar is so insistent that he fight Jaime Munguia is because he views him as a limited fighter the way many people do, or many people did, up until he enlisted the aid of Freddie Roach. Edgar likes his chances.
That's fine, he's supposed to.
But he's got to get real about the numbers. He's got to get real about the money.
I don't know what number exactly he's looking for.
But if the fight hasn't materialized yet, I can only assume that it must be a big one. We've got to see if Edgar shows improvement in his next fight the same way that Jaime did in his last fight. Finally, in men's heavyweight news, Ricky Hatton says, I think Anthony Joshua will have enough firepower to shine against Ngannou. I myself don't really think it boils down to firepower, just firepower alone, because they're both very big. Men that size.
At heavyweight, almost anybody can knock out anybody.
We're in limbo, aren't we? Was Ngannou better than we gave him credit for, or did Tyson Fury take Ngannou lightly? Did Tyson not train as hard as he could? And that's why Ngannou looked as good as he did. There's a big question mark around Ngannou. We all know he can hit, but was it because Tyson took him lightly? All these questions no one is sure about yet. Tyson didn't physically look as good as he normally does, and he's also had those 3 fights with Wilder that may have taken something out of him.
It's not an either-or situation. Two things can be true at the same time. Maybe Ngannou is better than people gave him credit for. In tandem with Fury not taking the fight seriously, that explains what you saw.
If you're asking where my money would go, it would go on AJ because he's an exceptional boxer. You don't become an Olympic gold medalist and a 2-time heavyweight champion for nothing. He doesn't have the lateral movement of Tyson Fury, so he's going to be standing in front of Francis.
That's not true.
Anthony Joshua showed lateral movement in the Andy Ruiz rematch as he circled him, not allowing himself to be cornered by an advancing Andy Ruiz as he boxed Andy from the outside. The reason he didn't get pinned down in a corner is because he was moving laterally, circling him.
But Ricky Hatton continued.
He's going to be standing in front of Francis Ngannou, which worries me a little bit because if AJ does cop one, that could be that. But I'm going to go with AJ based on his confidence in his new team. I think he'll have enough firepower to shine against Ngannou. AJ versus Ngannou and Fury versus Usyk have been arranged. So the winners fight, and hopefully it's AJ and Fury. What a sight that would be to see. And also, it's great to see Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren on the same table and working together because I think that's what boxing needs.
AJ doesn't get enough credit for his movement and his athleticism, that he's very coordinated for a man his size, and the weight is distributed evenly throughout his entire body.
Yeah.
So he's not gangly.
He has full range of motion. No, he doesn't glide around the ring the way a smaller man could, but he moves well for a man his size. 6'6", 250 pounds.
Francis Ngannou's about 275.
Despite of that, Ricky Hatton says he thinks AJ has enough firepower to shine, and as stated, I don't think it boils down to firepower because they both have that.
They're both really big guys. They both hit hard. They both have that.
You're talking about two guys, one weighs 250 pounds, one weighs 275. Either guy could knock either guy out when you're talking about guys that are that size. So what it really boils down to is who can land and who can land first. I think Anthony's a bit quicker to the draw than Francis Ngannou. He's certainly a more experienced boxer than Francis Ngannou.
More snap on his punches.
He is younger and leaner, not carrying as much muscle, quite as much as Francis Ngannou, so he has full range of motion without being as kluggy.
He's younger too. Isn't Francis like 37 years old?
What I think will decide the contest, I mean, power's a part of it. It's a part of it. It certainly is, especially when it comes to heavyweights. But it's not just power. It's who can land and who can land first. And I think the younger, faster, fresher fighter with more range of motion can manage the distance, get punches in, bust the guy up, break him down, then take him out. Remember that Fury set the bar exceptionally low, so Joshua's not actually under any pressure.
I mean, if the great Tyson Fury couldn't score a knockout or so much as a knockdown.
You can take your time. There's no rush.